Okay. All right. So welcome everybody. This is going to be the Q&A session for the Moose and Wabanaki Studies pilot program that we're running for this fall. My name is Jen Page and I'm the Moose project manager, and I'll let my colleague introduce herself.
And I'm Brianne Mueller, the Wabanaki Studies Specialist.
So we're both in the Office of Teaching and Learning, and Wabanaki Studies has Moose modules as well as a robust set of other resources. And so there's some overlap between what we're doing, but we have the benefit of being able to offer kind of a financial stipend for you all to pilot anything within our realm. So the Moose modules, the Moose Wabanaki Studies modules, and then some of the Wabanaki Studies resources with the educator guide. So this is really, I think, a great opportunity for us to be able to get that feedback from you. To give you an idea of what we're going to go through today, just a quick overview of what Moose is, what it looks like, the Wabanaki Studies and the educator guides. We'll talk about the pilot itself and the requirements, as well as the compensation and expectations. Make sure you've got our contact information, and largely whatever kind of Q&A that you have, questions we can answer for you to make sure that you've got what you need to be able to apply and work with us for this fall. So if you haven't been on the Learn with Moose platform yet, if you are going to pilot a module or a guide, we're basically asking you to find one that you think is going to work for you. The platform is student facing, and it was started as a pandemic response, but now really has evolved in kind of a more robust way to be resources for educators in the classroom that are tied to the main learning results. And we're continuing to evolve the platform. But one of the things that we need is how is this working in the classroom with you and your students? And so with this pilot, you coming up with whatever module you think is going to work best for you, if you're doing a Moose module, is really gold for us. So we're not dictating you have to do it from this section or that section or whatnot. Go through, look at the modules themselves and see what works for you. As you're looking through the platform, you'll see that we often have featured learning modules at the front. A lot of our modules fall into different grade spans with the pre-K 2, 3, 5, middle and high school. We totally recognize, especially for those of you on the lower end, that a pre-K student is very different than a second grade student. So, but knowing that there are some overlaps of like, these are the students that are going to need a lot of hand holding through an online module or materials created or downloaded for them. So just pay attention to what works best for you and your students. And also for this pilot, knowing that you can modify anything in here. And that's part of what we're interested in knowing is how are you making this work in your classroom? So if you find a second grade module that you think is going to work well for your kindergarten students, we even have some people with the Wabanaki Studies modules that have been created. We have people in high school that are using the younger grade Wabanaki Studies modules to help high school students understand Wabanaki language. So really make it work for you and just let us know how it's going. You're able to look for modules based on the types of topics that they cover. You also can do searches for modules that help you narrow by grade span the topics, the activities that might be in there. So there's that aspect. Also, if you're looking for something really specific for a part of your curriculum, you can reach out and ask us, do you have a module that does X, Y, and Z? Or because we know them so much more than than what the search would necessarily bring up. We're working on improving the search right now, but just knowing that it is very literal in terms of finding that particular term you're looking for. It is not really good at interpreting what you're looking for. So just we're getting better, and reach out if you've got a question. All of the modules will have a landing page that has the overview, topics, activities, tools. The teacher tab should be active here very shortly. We're going to have a teacher portal where you can hold modules and be able to assign them essentially out to your class, have a classroom full of modules. And when your students are in the modules themselves, they'll be able to see their progress throughout the module itself. All the modules have a lot of different variety of activities, connections, videos, the text-to-speech options for folks if they prefer to listen or need to be read to. Um, so a lot of different options to kind of help support learners in the modules themselves. So that is a brief touch into the world of Moose. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over so you've got kind of an idea of what things look like for Wabanaki studies.
Yeah, so similar setup. We have seven um modules here.
Whoop.
Where they go,
I'm gonna do up
and the thing.
there we go.
And yeah, so there's a landing page right there for the seven. We have one pre-K two, one three five, a six, eight, and we have four, 9, 12. Just like Jen had said before, though, really like some of those can be mix and match and like pull some there. And oftentimes they will kind of back it up and pull some pieces just to kind of ground them before going into those. So in addition, there we go. So here are the educator guides that you had seen. This is new. We didn't offer this last year as part of the pilot, but this is something that educators from the classroom in collaboration with Wabanaki advisors have created over the past 2 years. They're still, as everything is with Wabanaki studies or anything in general, a work in progress. So this is, I was super excited to say, hey, can we have those as a pilot as well to kind of, work the kinks out, maybe add some things. Yep. So there's I don't know if you wanted
Which
to.
one would you like me to click on?
How about the visual art
Okay.
one? So that says K8, but really, again, like that could be used up to high school. We have a phenomenal art teacher who put this together. Let me scroll down a little bit. There we go. You're so good about making it bigger there. And just like the beginning, kind of grounding, some guiding questions, different lessons. You can do them in order, you can do them out of order. And all of these things, once you start digging in, leads to another thing and leads to another thing. And they're very, very rich. It's beyond just the three lessons. There's plenty resources going out there. So spend some time kind of looking through, see what makes sense for you down there. This is just a little something that she put together where like pulling lessons out from other educator guides and see how it integrates really nicely with this educator guide. They complement each other quite a bit, protecting pollinators. We really tried to look into what is already being taught in the classroom and then weave Wabanaki studies into it. So it's not this silo thing. It really complements what you're doing here, like the ELA, all sorts of different resources, Wabanaki children's books out there, getting outdoor. I mean, it just goes on and on. I love this one, especially. I mean, they're all fantastic, but
Yeah, so if you think about that with all of these, there's a lot to look at here.
yeah. So there are 20 there. And let's see. And part of that, you might have seen that we had referenced attending 2 or more of Wabanaki Studies webinars. This is another thing that is new this year. We have all these fantastic advisors that have been working with us, and they would often meet with these educators, but now opening it up to others. And so talking about different areas, their knowledge that they shared right there. We're starting off October. Newell Louie does a wonderful talk about mascots and Wabanaki history. And so these are Tuesdays at 6 p.m. And then you can kind of pick and choose. You can go to all of them. But ideally, if you're doing any of the modules, but if you're doing Wabanaki studies, this will really enrich your learning experience and you'll really be able to pull some things away from these webinars to enhance what you're doing in the classroom.
And that link to sign up, we'll drop all of these links in the chat and also be sending out this presentation with all the links afterwards. But that goes to a webinar series sign up. Anything else that you wanted to share with the stuff, Bree?
I don't think so. Maybe answer questions at the end, but I think
Great. So I will, so we've got all of those pieces. And again, between the Moose platform and all of those educator guides, there's a ton there. So just finding what works for you and knowing that with the educator guides, we're not expecting you to do everything in the educator guide. Just like we're not expecting you when you do a Moose module to have to do the entire thing if that's not what works for you. So use as you see fit. So then in terms of the pilot requirements, so this is what we're asking you to do to help us improve the materials, is that you're going to do the application if you want to apply. And we're asking you when you do the application to identify what your plan is ahead of time. So give us the links to, I'm going to use this guide, I'm going to use this module. You can change those later on. It's okay. It's not, if you get into your classroom and it's like, oh, shoot, okay, now I have this thing and this would work a lot better. But what we don't want is somebody to be like, oh, yeah, I want to pilot the Moose modules and not have any plan for how this is actually going to fit into their classroom. So that's part of the application, is asking you to identify something that you think is going to fit, making sure you tell us how it's going to fit. And if you need to change, then just letting us know later on. We'll have kind of an orientation session for you, whether it's with the regular Moose modules, with the Wabanaki studies, any of those stuff. We'll make sure you're up and running once you get into the program. You can implement up to 2 things. So 2 modules, 2 educator guides, 1 of each, whatever works. You can do as much as you want, but we can just give you credit. Essentially, we can pay you for up to 2. We're asking for a classroom of 5 or more students because we're trying to see how this actually works when you're dealing with multiple learners. But you choose the modules or guides, how you're going to do it, how you adapt it. We want that learning narrative from you, and we're asking for kind of a rich understanding of what happened in your classroom. So when you had this thing, how did you prepare to teach it in the classroom? Did you have to get anything else ready? How easy was it to think about using this thing? What actually happened in the classroom? We don't want to know student names, but if you had challenges with individual students with different learning needs, or there was a piece of curriculum content that just did not land or was really hard, good, bad, ugly, we want to know what's working and what's not so we can improve. So that will be kind of your exit ticket in some ways of telling us what happened in the classroom. We have a option basically for us to follow up with you with questions about things. So just committing that if we have questions and or bringing people together for a conversation about how this all went, we're saying being able to dedicate to us about 45 minutes for something like that at the end, depending on what makes sense. And then there are options to get paid for other things or have other supports that help you with this. So the de-identified student work and reflections, we can't keep students' names or identifying information as a DOE to show what has happened. And that's really hard with both Moose and with Wabanaki studies. We can't see what's happening with the students and get feedback from them. So if you're willing to de-identify student work or reflections and turn that in, we would be happy to compensate you for that. And then obviously the additional Wabanaki studies webinars are a real gift, I think, for helping to support the work that you're doing. In terms of how much we're able to compensate you for this, it would be up to $600 per module or guide. So that learning narrative and doing it in your classroom for each one, we're saying is a $500 compensation. That is gold for us. Thank you very much. Please, please help us understand what's going on. If you're able to also submit de-identified student project work or reflections, you technically didn't do the work of those things, but you're doing the work of de-identifying them. So those are kind of an extra bonus in terms of you're putting extra effort into getting these things for us, but they're really valuable to us. So if you're willing to do that, we can compensate for those things up to $100 per set. So as you're submitting your application, we just need a clear plan for the ones you want to pilot. We expect that you're kind of communicating early and often. So if you're having a problem, you need additional support, you're confused about something, please, we won't hound you for anything. If you sign the contract, it allows us to pay you, but we are not going to be coming after you and saying, do you have this done yet? Do you have this done yet? We are relying on you to reach out to us when you need things. Submit everything by January 19th. And this is a hard deadline because we have to submit all of the names of the people participating at the front all together, and we need to submit all the payments at the end all together. And so there's no like, oh, sorry, I didn't get it to you by this date or whatever. Like everybody's payment goes out at once. So it's just a feature of kind of how this particular type of pilot is set up. So we appreciate, again, reaching out early and often, and we will send out reminders of like, hey, you've got 2 weeks to finish your stuff, but we're not individually going to be coming after you. So please look for a confirmation from us. If you submit something, don't just assume that because you submitted it, we definitely have it. Like Bree and I are both really good at communicating and following up. So we will let you know, we got it, you're good, we have this, we need this. So that is kind of the overview of everything that we have with the pilot this round. Again, we'll be sending out this information. So we have the contact information for both of us on there. I'm assuming in order for you to sign up for this, you saw our newsroom article because that had the registration in it, but it also has the application link in there as well. And if you're sharing it with any like a partner teacher that wants to do something as well, we do need separate learning things from both of you, like if you're co-teaching in the classroom. So just keep that in mind. But if you've got questions about that, we're happy to answer. And at this point, I am going to wrap up the presentation part of it. Thank everybody for coming. And then I'm going to stop the recording and we can transition into just general Q&A.